Hello, I'm Laura Bithell, editor of Raconteur's This Could Have Been an Email Hub. As the busy holiday season kicks into gear, we're looking at how brands can fine-tune their marketing strategies. This means thinking carefully about consumer mindsets and behaviour during this period, and considering which marketing techniques are most likely to win over customers. To explore this topic, I'm delighted to be joined by Cathrine Jansson-Boyd, a professor of consumer psychology at Anglia Ruskin University. Thanks so much for joining me, Cathrine. So at this time of year, there's obviously a lot of sales and deals. What's that kind of, the psychology behind that feel-good feeling we get when we get a discounted item?
Oh, there's quite a lot to it. So there isn't a human in the world that doesn't like a bargain. We're almost pre-programmed to like a good price. So when we see a sale sign, we actually get excited. And quite interestingly, what tends to happen is when we see something or we anticipate a good price, part of the brain that activates pleasure is activated. So that means we kind of get this, excitement feeling, which is great because that draws us to bargains and sale signs and even messaging about it. And what's quite interesting is that very same part of the brain is also in charge of dopamine. And of course, dopamine is usually referred to as a sort of happy drug within the body. And that means we also feel happy. So you get the excitement and you get a feeling of happiness when you encounter a good price.
And what do you think that means for maybe marketers when they're looking at, their campaigns over Christmas or peak season, in terms of maybe how they could or should approach their customers?
Well, they should approach them with very clear signage or messaging that this is actually quite a big discount, because the bigger the discount, the more excited we get. And of course, that sort of part of the brain will then send messages to your body, which is a bit of an adrenaline rush, and you will get this almost feeling of, what if I miss out on this? So you will be more likely to act on it. So it's really important that that's clear. Just saying some general, there's a reduction might not be enough. You need a clear message of how big a reduction, how big is the discount compared to previous price. And that means that people can basically make that judgment and that part of the brain will follow, so to speak.
Obviously, this time of year is a lot to do with gift giving and buying gifts or presents for somebody else. Can you tell us a bit about how emotions and that kind of messaging impacts shopping decisions?
When it comes to the emotions, that very much guides how we are making our decisions, whether we think it does or not. So think about nice things that trigger emotions like colours, smells, environments, the atmosphere of Christmas. So if we find ourselves in those situations, often we might end up thinking, I'm going to buy this because I feel good about this. And actually you take it home and you might experience some level of regret. And this is also adding to feeling under pressure, which a lot of people do. Maybe you're out 3 days before Christmas Day and you think, I now have to buy 3 different presents or 4 different presents or how many they need. You then go in and you're driven by the emotions of the particular setting where you're shopping. And before you know it, you bought things just because you feel good. But actually that might not have been the best decision. So to try to overcome that, of course, which you want to do, because you want to try to shop with your head, especially for loved ones, is sit down at home and make a list perhaps of the things that you think other people might appreciate. And then go off and look for those particular things. But unless you have a specific guide, you tend to be guided by the emotions rather than by perhaps what other people want.
Yeah, and I suppose for marketers who are kind of looking to tap into that and kind of make sure that they are appealing to consumers, how do you think they can, in a way that's authentic and feels like it's not kind of hoodwinking the customer, approach their kind of marketing around that time of year for gift givers?
Well, one thing that can be quite effective and nice, but not very many marketers seems to actually make use of, is to present products and say, maybe this falls to certain kind of people who could be interested in this. So again, you're helping the consumers to make the right decisions. Perhaps if you have someone who's particularly interested in playing golf, presented as perhaps the men in your family really likes playing golf. Here's for the big golfer. And make that very clear from the onset so that people can kind of look for categories of items that they know that people are interested in. What you shouldn't do is patronize. This is for grandma. Grandma is not the same just because grandma is a grandma, because again, we're very individual. But of course, most consumers will have specific interests. And if you can flag that to the people that are shopping, that would then mean that they could help those to make the decisions that they actually need.
I know it's a bit of a cliche to say, it's the thought that counts, but there does seem to be quite a lot of evidence to say that, thoughtful gifts over maybe expensive gifts kind of really resonate with people. Why do you think that might be the case, and why is that kind of a big factor in why people appreciate what they're bought?
So there's a lot of suggestions that this is the case, but actually when you test this psychologically, it doesn't hold up.
Interesting.
What tends to happen is that people aren't happy with their gifts. Mm-hmm. And if it's a relatively expensive gift, people usually ask why didn't they get something even more expensive, so that can really backfire. What we do know works best and creates most happiness when it comes to giving Christmas gifts are experiences. So something that kind of takes you to perhaps the cinema with another person, so you get the social interaction, and you telling people effectively by giving them a gift like that I want to spend time with you. And that seems to hit psychologically better for people because they then feel like they're really making an effort. Gift giving can be very, very difficult to get right. And interestingly enough, looking at post-Christmas results from what people do with their gifts, it usually means they're giving them away, they're swapping them with other people, they're selling them again, which would indicate that people aren't actually pleased about what they're getting.
That's interesting. I suppose there's also, when it's a physical object, there's kind of more of a clear monetary exchange perhaps as well. It's clear like how much you spent on someone and you've thought about the price more than the kind of experience just being something that you'll share with someone else.
Yeah. So from that point of view, if you really wanted to make someone happy, you think about what can I do to invest my time in you, and you really therefore show, actually, I want to hang out with you.
If I was to say sort of maybe one or two things that companies or marketers could do to kind of stand out during this period authentically to the consumer, what would you maybe say that would be?
That's a really good question. Again, it will come down to what product it is. There isn't one size fits all. I think showing that you care in some respect is a good idea. I mean, one example we saw 4 years ago now, maybe, some quite well-known supermarket made use of an already produced advert for a charity, even though you're not allowed to actually do that, and it was pulled off as a marketing campaign. People actually went, well, hang on a minute, if you really want to promote this cause, you got to believe in it. So it did go viral. And even though it was a gamble on part of the company, it sort of paid off because it showed that they care. So you could do things, maybe not a marketing stunt like that, but you can do things to show consumers you care, but you need to decide what you should do to demonstrate that. And that could be putting money into charities, it could be promoting things in a sustainable way. It depends on.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to what you were saying earlier about consumers being very savvy and sniffing out as soon as something is inauthentic or a brand is kind of promoting something they don't actually have a stake in.
Absolutely. We're not living in ignorant times. And even if people can't afford to buy certain things, they know about it. We are living in very informed times. And if you get something wrong, of course, it's going to be all over the internet within seconds. Especially younger generation, they trade that information very, very fast. So you do need to be careful. You need to get it right. You can't afford to get it wrong. And you need to make sure it is indeed authentic.
Great, well, thank you. This has been really insightful. Thanks for joining me, Cathrine.
Thank you.